If you've ever felt like your current blog niche is no longer the right fit, you know how terrifying the idea of a pivot can feel. You worry about losing your authority, your audience, and most importantly, your income. But what if a niche pivot was actually the key to having your most profitable year yet? Our guest, travel creator Kristin Addis, is proof that this is possible. After over a decade of building the popular solo female travel blog, Be My Travel Muse, she launched Parenthood Adventures in 2023, growing into over 500,000 Instagram followers, as well as over $1 million in travel planning bookings in the last 6 months alone. Today, Kristin will be breaking down how she navigated pivoting her blog brand, tips for positioning yourself as an expert in a new space, her secrets for fast organic growth on Instagram, and how she increased her earnings by expanding beyond traditional blogging revenue streams into a high-ticket agency model. Now, we'll be covering a lot, so if you just want to relax without having to take notes, I've got you. I've created a free blog brand pivot cheat sheet based on Kristin's tips. You can grab it inside of my free travel blogger resource library, which is linked in the video description or via the QR code on your screen. It includes 75 plus checklist tutorials and templates, all meant to help you grow your traffic, email list, and income. Feel free to even pause this video to go grab those resources. You back? Then let's dive in. So, Kristin, thank you so much for taking the time to share your tips. To start, can you just share more about yourself, your business, and what led you to pivot your niche and monetization strategy?
Yeah, excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me. So I started in 2012, in September 2012. I started a solo female travel blog. I basically bought a one-way ticket to Bangkok and just really hoped I was going to be able to figure it out. So I went all in from day one. And over time, that scaled to be, at one point, it was the most read women's travel blog in the world. And then we all know what happened with AI and Google Answers. So as that began to tank 10 years in, I pivoted to another brand. I became a mother in 2021. So parenthood is something I'm passionate about. Turns out other parents are as well. And so Parenthood Adventures is my new brand that was born at that point. And then I started the Instagram that goes along with that in the summer of 2024. And I also pivoted to travel agency work. So it's been a journey of just solo blogging and social media to I ran women's trips in there as well, YouTube, all of the social media platforms, to now focusing mostly still on the blogs a little bit, mostly on Instagram and my travel agency business.
Love that. And I'd love to start by discussing the pivot. This is something I get asked about a lot myself. And I know a lot of people, we change over time. A lot of us started this maybe as a solo backpacker. And then, like you said, you have children or just things change. But I know, it can be really scary once you've kind of established yourself as an expert on a specific topic already. So are you still running the solo travel brand, Be My Travel Muse, alongside this new venture? And if so, how are you balancing those two brands at once?
Sure. Well, Be My Travel Muse always will be my baby, my original baby. It's what's launched me on this whole career of working for myself. I will always love it. But I had to recognize and understand that people who followed me and fell in love with this brand because it was about solo female travel are not going to all of a sudden feel aligned with family travel. These are two very different kind of oppositional brands. So I didn't want to compromise that. I still wanted to speak to solo travel. It's something I still do from time to time. I was actually solo traveling this week in Arizona. So even as a mom, I think it's still a very important thing to do, but I have leaned a lot more into the parenting brand now. So while I still run that blog, social media wise, I am focused pretty much all in on parenthood.adventures on Instagram. It grew so much faster and has become wildly more successful than Be My Travel Muse. So it was more just a decision of, well, let's lean into what's working and what I'm doing more these days. So I will always probably have Be My Travel Muse, but Parenthood Adventures is where my main focus is these days.
And what would you say to the blogger who is thinking of pivoting, but maybe they're feeling a little scared about mainly probably their audience might unfollow them and that they'll have to start from scratch? And were there things that you did to bring your audience along with you? I know you mentioned there kind of oppositional brands. But I would also think maybe some people aligned with your age and maybe they started as solo travelers and then became parents. So maybe some of them followed along.
There's certainly some people who decided to follow along. And I know that because they've said, hey, I've been following you since, for X amount of years. And so I obviously know that they have to be someone who's been with me for a while. But it's probably 95% new people. And you know this as well. With this industry, it has always been about constantly being willing to pivot, constantly being willing to kill your darlings, as they say, and move on to something new. If you can't do that, you're just an ostrich with their head in the sand. Like, no, I'm gonna stick with what's working. It's not working anymore. So that's been true for so long. I mean, back in 2012, everyone was using Stumble Upon. Does anyone even know what that is anymore? To try to get their traffic, everyone was selling paid links and hiding them in their blogs. And so we had to move on from that. We had to learn to monetize in new ways. And anyone who wasn't willing to do paid advertisements or go on paid trips or put ads on their blog kind of got left behind. So the people who were willing to do that were able to make a really good income. Now we have to look at our blogs and say, is this still how I'm making most of my money, or do I need to pivot yet again? And it is exhausting. It's the kind of industry where you're doing it yearly, maybe more than that. So you're always on the frontier of something. You're always having to innovate in some way. And the people who have been at this for a decade or longer are the ones who have been willing to pivot constantly.
Yeah. Did you do anything with your content like emails or social posts? Like, did you kind of have a strategy for letting people know, hey, I'm kind of moving people over or moving things over to this new brand or anything like that?
I understood and I knew that for the most part, it was going to be an all new audience. And I knew that because everyone who had a blog, maybe they had some overlap between their blog and Instagram, but those were probably different audiences. And you probably had an entirely different audience on YouTube if you did YouTube. Some overlap, sure. And it's great when people are following you on multiple platforms. That's a true fan right there. But a lot of the people who are looking at your stuff are going to be new to you. And so I think you always have to be speaking to people as though they don't know you and don't care who you are. You have to be offering them something of value in some way. So I did announce a few times on stories, because that's your most engaged audience, that I had this new platform. I did some collaborative reels on Instagram to just let people know. If you're reading my blog, you'll see a lot of interlinking between my two blogs. So sometimes I'll reference parenting and parenthood adventures, so that people, if they are parents, they can decide to like go and look on that, but nothing super aggressive, because I did know and understand that probably my audience building was not going to come from my existing audience of solo female travelers.
Yeah. And you actually grew in that family travel space very quickly. So, how did you establish authority there so that people who maybe, didn't know your extensive travel experience felt comfortable booking trips through you almost immediately?
It was more leaning into our expertise as people who travel with a young child. So I initially started that account and I was talking about baby travel gear, because that's what the blog was mostly focused on for affiliates, obviously. And then I realized anyone can go online and talk about a stroller. Any parent probably owns a stroller. It's a very low hanging fruit. So I don't want to be competing in a place where everyone else can compete. And those reels weren't doing well. And I almost honestly shelved that account and said, I'm not going to do this. Like, Instagram is not my platform, blah, blah, blah. I was talking myself out of it. And then I thought, okay, well, actually, what's my superpower here? Most people don't have as well traveled of a toddler as I do. At the time, he'd been to, I think, 12 to 15 countries, and he was only 2 years old. Now he's been to 21 at 3 years old. It's not something most parents are doing. So that's what I need to speak to. And as soon as I leaned into that, people resonated. They considered me an authority from day one, because I was saying these are the 5 best countries we've been to after 17 with a baby. So I always went back to, we're very experienced. This is why I like something. This is why I think it's good for other families. And it's just always been hopefully as helpful and practical of information as possible, while also being quite aspirational and just nice to look at.
I feel like that'll be inspiring to a lot of people listening or watching, just because I feel like a lot of people, try something. It doesn't work. They feel like, okay, maybe this just isn't it for me. But I love that idea of just kind of pivoting and leading into your expertise, your experience. I mean, we talk about that so much with like SEO stuff too, but I feel like nowadays with AI, it's even more important to show your experience and expertise to really prove that ChatGPT didn't sort of just regurgitate this out. I'm also curious, you talked about this a bit, but I know some people, when they're thinking of pivoting, kind of debate between do I start a whole new brand like you did? Or is it as simple as sort of adding a category to your existing site and maybe really leaning into a certain topic? Do you have any thoughts on how people can sort of make that decision?
I would ask if there's much crossover. It was so obvious to me that solo travelers and family travelers are not the same person. Someone who follows me because they're a solo female traveler may have become a parent, but that probably means there's a new platform that's a better fit for them. And I don't want to alienate my my current audience of solo female travelers who are still interested in that content. I have to get into the mindset of someone who has decided, like, no, I don't want children, and no, I don't want to look at, family travel advice on your blog when I'm only here for advice on how to travel alone. That's the choice I've made. And I think that's beautiful and wonderful. And I really want to honor that people are at different points in their lives and they've made different decisions for themselves. And so I took this path, but that doesn't mean I don't still care about this old brand that I still feel very aligned with. But then I had to look at what's working better. So I do think it's important to constantly be trying and testing new things. So if you have the time and the bandwidth, go ahead and try something new. Go ahead and test another platform. Go ahead and test a whole new passion project of yours, especially if you're feeling less excited about what you were doing before, less aligned with what you were doing before. I have to accept that I can't be making solo travel content at the clip I was before because now I'm traveling with my family. So it was just really a no-brainer. I knew that I would cannibalize the important audience that I had on Be My Travel Muse if I started speaking to something that wasn't for them.
Yeah. And I'd love to talk more now about monetization. What you're doing is so inspiring and also like pretty unique. I feel like in the creator space, I don't see a lot of people doing the travel agency stuff. So I'd love to talk about, many bloggers do the traditional affiliates and ads. Maybe you're doing that too, but you also are doing this travel agency model. So I'm curious what led you to launch travel planning and trip booking services specifically, and what strategies helped you monetize those quickly.
I do still do the blog and affiliate, but I think we've all seen that shrink over time. So my biggest plan was to replace that revenue. And I knew I had to do it quickly because none of us know how much time we have in terms of when the blog might just go to zero. For some people, that happened a couple of years ago when all of a sudden overnight their traffic was gone. So seeing that happen to my peers, many of whom have been in this for as long as I have, and I really couldn't see any obvious reason why that happened to them, I knew that I had to come up with a replacement as well because none of us know when that time is coming for our own brands and blogs. So there's so few industries where this is the case, although with AI, it's growing. So I was thinking, okay, what is something where it's human to human, where our experience matters? And it was actually a friend who came to me with this idea, and he said, hey, there's another blogger who talks about points and miles whose husband is doing it. And I took a look and I was like, wow, why don't I start looking into this as well? If they're monetizing in this way, it's clearly working. They're doing very well at it. Maybe there's an opportunity here. So I can't claim originality with this idea, but you're correct. There's very few creators who are also doing the travel agent thing. I have to say that it was a huge uphill battle in terms of learning how to do it. It's been still a learning process, a year and a half into it. And it's not a very easy route or pivot because everything is going to be new to you in terms of booking this. Most travel agents get their clientele from within their inner circle, people that they know, referrals, but I am trying to convince perfect strangers off the internet to trust me with a vacation that might be very expensive, especially because with this, I've chosen to lean into the ultra luxury market. So I had to learn how to market in a very different way. I had to learn how to talk to people in such a way as this is why I'm trustworthy. And when you reach out, you're talking to me or my team. So that's something that we're always still working on. That's something that I'm always learning is how to better talk to my audience and kind of get them to understand the unique value proposition that we have. And so it's been quite a journey, to be honest.
Did you do like a travel agency sort of training type of thing?
I didn't
Or
do any training. I just jumped right in. I'm of two minds of whether that's helpful or not. A lot of them charge you Let me just break down how this works. So many of them will charge a huge upfront fee. One that I talked to charged 10 grand just for their training. Another one charges $300 a month, but they will retain 20% of your earnings forever. And for me, that would be huge. So I went with an agency that wasn't going to charge me upfront for training. But in hindsight, I probably needed more training than I got. And I'm able to pay a higher fee to them to keep 100% of my commissions. So that's another thing to know, is that when you become a travel agent, you're paying into the program from day one, whether you're successful or not. And you are completely responsible for everything that you spend on marketing, on employees. Everything really comes down to you. You're the one chasing invoices. You're the one running the business pretty much entirely, and they are there to provide their relationships to you. So that is how the industry is structured. And many, many people, I think the average wage, yearly wage for a travel advisor is $35,000. So know that it's one of those industries, much like blogging, where there's a lot of people making very little off of it and very few people at the top making a lot off of it.
Got it. What do you feel like is sort of the number one thing that separates those two groups of the people kind of making the smaller amounts first, those people making the really, really big money?
Your marketing and your unique value proposition. In which way are you convincing people that it's worth it? For me, I have a very specific niche of luxury family travel with little kids. So that's something that people can look at and say, well, I don't see anyone else providing that exactly. And I think we do a very good job of selling people on the places that we go because we've gone and personally vetted them. So that's something that people know, because that's how they find us, is through our reels usually, that we have been there, that we have the expertise, and that we can provide a unique perspective on the industry that someone who specializes in empty nester travel, which most travel agents are older, or who does honeymoon travel, is not going to really maybe understand as well.
All right, taking a quick break from the episode to tell you how you can get paid opportunities sent straight to your inbox. Every Monday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern, I send out my VIP Opportunities for Travel Creators newsletter. Each edition is hand curated to include 5 high-value leads, from brand to UGC partnerships to press trips to paid writing assignments and beyond. For example, a recent issue featured a wildlife-focused press trip to Sweden, a call for pitches from a top travel magazine, and a high-paying affiliate program that was also looking to sponsor some Instagram reels. Now, I want you to see the value for yourself,
so I'm offering one issue of your choice for free. You can join today and get 5 free leads
by clicking the link in the video description or scanning the QR code on your screen. Think of this as a weekly shortcut that helps you stay consistent with your pitches and monetization without the hours of manual research. All right, now back to the video. And you mentioned Reels, so I'd love to talk more about Instagram, because across both of your Instagrams, you're so skilled at this platform. So I'm curious, what made you choose Instagram as a primary platform focus, and what are the top strategies helping you increase your following and engagement, especially in today's environment? I mean, these algorithms seem to change every second. So yeah, what's working for you now?
One really interesting thing is it took me 10 years to get to 130,000 followers on Be My Travel Muse, and then it was just stuck and didn't move. And anytime I posted, I'd actually lose followers. I see so many creators talking about this. Then I start parenthood.adventures, and I am at 513,000 followers completely organically. I played no games, did nothing shady, which I bring that up because so many people do in order to grow, but it is 100% organic, and it's all been through Reels. And that happened in about a year and a half that I reached 500,000. It just blew my mind. And I think a few things are at play here. The biggest is I finally found a niche that people are super passionate about and are very willing to follow. So there's a few industries where you see that people grow followings really fast. One I find is teaching you how to grow. If the advice is really good, those people tend to get a lot of followers really fast. Another one turns out is like parenting, because this is something people are really passionate about. The biggest part of your life is something that you now have in common with this person who you might otherwise never have had interest with. But there's a few qualities that I think need to always be present in order to go viral and get people to follow you. because if it's just funny or just relatable or just pretty, people might look at that. They might even text it to somebody, but they're not motivated to actually hit that follow button. So in order to get people to actually follow you, I think it really needs to be helpful. I think it needs to be super inspiring, particularly beautiful, whether the person is really beautiful or the destination is really beautiful. I think some people who are able to get really big followings still as just an influencer are people who are like 11 out of 10 beautiful. I'm not saying that's me. I'm saying that there's people on the platform who do really well because they're just nice to look at. It can be something that is relatable. So people look at that and they see themselves in it. Or something that is like really funny. And I think ideally you're doing at least 2, ideally 3 out of that bucket in order to get people engaged enough that they want to keep seeing you. And every time you pop up, they actually pause and watch it. My videos are also quite long. I narrate them. They're information dense. So it gets people to watch maybe for a little bit longer and gets them to say, I wonder what else she has, and go look at my profile and decide after watching a few of them that, okay, yeah, actually this is pretty helpful. And I think that if I keep seeing it, I'll keep wanting to engage with it. Also, it is important to stick with your niche. A lot of people make the niche themselves. And I think that worked great back in the dawn of the influencer around like 2015. People were very willing to follow a stranger they didn't know. These days, I think people are tired of that. I think they don't want to just watch someone else off having a good time unless it's helping them in some way, or they just think this person is, again, particularly attractive and they like watching them for that reason. There's not as much of a reason for people to just follow you to see what you're eating or where you're going or who you're hanging out with. I think people just don't care anymore. So parenthood.adventures is a lot more of a faceless account. You never see my son's face. You rarely see mine or my husband's face. So it's really more about picturing yourself there. And I think that was kind of the original thing about Instagram. Like back in 2013, 2014, no one was even showing their faces. It was the back of everyone's head. We're moving back towards that because I think it's more about people seeing it and picturing themselves there.
Yeah. And I'd love to build on that a little bit with the idea of bookings. So how are you with this content that's like really helpful and educational? How are you promoting your services? And I'd love to hear also a little bit of like what that funnel looks like. Like someone sees your reel or maybe even reads your blog post, and then how are they being led to the actual service?
This was one of the biggest things that I had to refine and understand how to present. So you actually asked a question of why I chose short form video over any other platform. And the reason is because it's easiest for me. YouTube, I think, is great and really powerful, but I was doing YouTube prior to giving birth, and I tried to do it on a few of our trips with my son, and it was just so overwhelming. Like I couldn't put the amount of production value into it that is necessary from a travel channel to make it work. So I just had to look at that and say, pausing this for now, it's okay. And also people on that channel were not interested in family travel. They were only interested in solo travel. So that was another very clear signal that I either needed to start a whole new channel, which I didn't have the energy for. And that's what led me to Instagram. But the great thing about Instagram is ManyChat, which is a tool that I use for most of my reels. There's always a call to action, whether that's to follow my account or to comment something to get more information about what they've just seen. So we're mainly promoting specific hotels, or we're doing lists or itineraries. So people can comment, and then I will send them a blog post that has a full review of that hotel. In the message, I'm explaining to them who we are and what we do. And in the blog post, you get a bigger explanation of who we are and what we do. I imagine that we capture 1% to 3% of the views we actually get in terms of people who ultimately book through us. So this is a great deal for the hotels that are getting like tons of exposure and tons of bookings that probably don't ultimately go through us. But that is the beast of social media. It's an awareness platform. And so you have to get people from awareness to actually booking with you, which is why blogs are so great. You're mostly getting people when they're much farther down the line and are ready to book. So we're using both. And ideally, I can just get people to like the idea of us as an agency and come to us when they're ready to book something. And over time, that's happened more and more and more.
Are you using ManyChat for the DM marketing or the comment prompt marketing?
Yes, ManyChat. I think it's a great tool.
I love it. It makes it so much easier. And I feel like it's increased conversion so much. I'm curious too, do you ever do reels or Instagram content or even blog posts that direct people to an email list?
Yes, yes. So we have a robust email list, and every week I send out the best deals, whether that's a night free at the Four Seasons or Rosewood or something like that. A lot of them are deals people can only get through a travel agent. So people sign up for our deals email list and they get a weekly email with that. Or I like to talk about credit cards and points and miles.
So it sounds like the Instagram is sort of like the visibility platform, and then like the blog is where they can kind of get to know you even more. And then the email list is almost like the VIP list where they can get those special deals. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. And all of this is free to access, and our services are almost entirely free as well.
Oh, actually, could you kind of go over how your services work a bit? I feel like we kind of said planning services, but how does each of these services sort of work?
So, mainly what I'm trying to do is get people to come to me with something in mind that they already want, and then we can provide our booking service free of charge to them because the hotels compensate us or the cruise lines or what have you. So, ideally, you've seen something on my account that you like, you want to book it. And so then we talk about dates and room types and prices, and then we get that booked. And the benefits that people get when they book through us are, this is the biggest one, a room upgrade if there's availability at check-in. If they're fully booked, they can't do it. Almost always our clients do get the upgrade because we always follow up with the hotel before check-in to remind them. And we have really good relationships with these hotels because we've been there ourselves. And in many cases, we're sending them a ton of bookings. So they like to prioritize our clients. People also usually get a resort credit, at least $100, but sometimes more. Sometimes it's a daily credit or up to $500. They also get early check-in and late checkout when available and free breakfast. It's kind of shocking, but a lot of these hotels that charge $1,000 to $2,000 per night aren't including the breakfast. So for some hotels, this can be $120 daily value just to have the breakfast. And usually we're able to offer this for the same rate that they see online when they go to that website.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. And you said a lot of these services are free and they're just, getting that perk just from working with you.
Exactly. The only time that we charge a fee is if someone is having us do a fully bespoke trip plan for them where we're planning every aspect of the trip. But in most of my marketing, I really try to steer people towards like, we'll just book hotels for you. And then you're getting this free service and we don't have to do as much. And then everybody's happy and everybody wins. You're booking this hotel anyway. You might as well not only get all the points, because when people book with us, they're actually still booking directly with the hotel. We are just logging in through our agent portal through Marriott or Hilton or Hyatt or Four Seasons. So they're still getting all the points, all this VIP status that they otherwise probably couldn't access. And it's often for the same or better rate.
Ooh, okay. I need to use that. I wanted to also ask, with all these algorithm updates on both search and social media, we talked kind of about how you're maintaining visibility through the type of content, but I'm curious if you're still sort of optimizing for the algorithms. Are you staying up to date on all the changes, or are you just sort of keeping your content vision in line of like, okay, I just want to create helpful reels for my audience?
It's both. I think you always have to be clued into what's going on in the industry. In terms of blogging, it is something that I will continue to maintain. Like I will ride this off into the sunset until it doesn't make a dollar anymore. Might as well. And I think that helpful content will always be helpful. But when it comes down to it, people are more relying on ChatGPT to answer their questions. And that's just the way that it's going. So we need to like see that future and not be so stuck on our blogs. It's a dying industry. It sucks, but it's true. And it's more about, okay, well, what platforms are people on right now? I think we know it's YouTube and it's short form video. So definitely be clued in, be like watching Adam Mosseri's videos. If you're on Instagram, he's giving you Easter eggs all the time. And a lot of what pops up on my feed is people talking about new ways to utilize AI and social media, probably because that's the content that I've like paused and watched. So my feed has become very helpful information with how to like use these tools to grow your account. So I'm always clued into that. And this is where the cutting edge is really with love it or hate it, AI has come in and like taken a lot from us, but it's also giving us a lot. And so we kind of have no choice but to follow that as well. And that's always how I've seen things. People would always get mad every time there was a Google update, like Google stealing my traffic. And it's like, don't waste any energy on being mad. Just move on. That's all we can do.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like it's out of our control. So we kind of
Totally.
have to adapt and figure out the next thing.
Yeah. Remember when everyone was getting their traffic from Facebook and now it's like, does not work that way. It's always changing.
100%. Now, you had said that in the last 6 months or so, you had gotten $1 million in bookings, which is incredible. But I also imagine that it is a lot of work. So I'm curious how you've structured your team or your systems to handle that volume of travel planning while also actually enjoying your trips and spending time with your family.
I am a big fan of the book Clockwork. It is life changing. I recommend any small business owner read it. The biggest thing to me is hire out everything and anything that you're not good at and don't like doing. So for me, I have a team helping me with the bookings and with all the research and also with pitching. And I am mainly the marketing engine. So all of the other things that go along behind the scenes, like I can do customer service, but I recognize that like my communication style has always just been very direct and blunt. And the best thing I can do is hire people to help me with that. And anytime anyone needs my expertise, I'm totally there to provide it. I will get on the phone with clients. I will make sure that they are fully taken care of. If there's anything that needs to be escalated, it comes straight to me. But the great thing is that we have a team on our business WhatsApp 24 hours, and we can make sure that when an inquiry comes through, we're handling it with speed and precision at all times.
I love that. I feel like a lot of people listening will also love to hear that because people are asking all the time, like, what do you hire for? Like at some point, there's only so much you can do. There's only so many hours in the day. You become like your own bottleneck. I mean, I say this and then I'm like the worst at hiring people, but I feel like that's kind of like a skill in itself. But once you can find good people, I feel like it changes everything.
Yeah, I think most people will say that team building and hiring the right people is probably the most important thing you can do as a leader. And it's also being willing to look at something that's not working and say, how do we change it?
Yes. Well, thank you, Kristin, so much for sharing your tips. This was so helpful. And again, like it's something new that I haven't heard many people talking about. So excited to have had you share, all of your knowledge. Before we sign off, can you just let everyone know where they can find you?
Absolutely. So we are at parenthood.adventures on Instagram, just Parenthood Adventures, no dot on TikTok, and parenthoodadventures.com. And then my travel agency is musebespokeescapes.com.
And I will have all of that linked in the show notes or the video description on YouTube. All right, now I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you feel inspired and empowered to grow your blog's visibility and income, even if it means pivoting your brand. Don't forget to grab access to the free Travel Blogger resource library that I've linked in the video description or via the QR code on your screen. There are a ton of resources in there on growing your community and increasing your blogging profits, including a blog brand pivot cheat sheet based on today's video. And of course, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss future videos sharing these strategies for bloggers who want to turn their blogs into profitable full-time businesses. Happy blogging!